You're locked into the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service today at callrogers.com. Get ready for double coverage with Nick Pierce and Pat Kelly, the weekly podcast that takes you inside Flames football and around the nation before game day. Now, alongside former Flames All-Conference wide receiver Pat Kelly, here's your host, Nick Pierce.
What's going on, Flames Nation? Welcome back into the show. I'm Nick Pierce. He's Pat Kelly, the former All-Conference Liberty Flames wide receiver. This is Double Coverage, Episode 2, as we take you throughout fall camp here in 2026, counting down to the start of the season. We are less than 30 days out at the time of this taping. Liberty and JMU on September the 5th. And we've got a lot to get to here this week. We will take some of your questions from the mailbag as well. We'll talk first week of full contact, full pads at scrimmage this week for the Flames. At practice this week. There is a scrimmage coming up this Saturday for the Flames, and we'll talk plenty about that coming up here as well. But you're locked into the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service at callrogers.com. Pat, good to see you again, my friend. How's the week been?
Nick, it's been good. We are approaching Friday. It's always needed. My wife has been in New Mexico for the last 5 days, so I've been solo parenting both of my kids. I'm trying to keep any remaining sanity that I've got somewhere close by. I think it's gone, but it's been good. I've got something to look forward to, like you mentioned, with football season right around the corner.
I think you and my wife need to form a support group because you're in the same boat that she's in when I get on the road and start traveling. You guys need to have support text back and forth. Like, what are you doing with this or when this happens? She does a lot of solo parenting and does a fantastic job with it. But yeah, you are definitely in the same boat. My sympathies to you. But you know what? They are. It's crazy, man. Kids are. They're fun until they ain't, right? They're cute until they ain't. I've heard it described that way. You know, there's moments where Grayson is just this bundle of joy, and you look at him and you're just like, man, this kid's hilarious. And then there's 2 minutes later, it's meltdown city over nothing. You know,
you say they're hilarious. A story that I've got is pretty recently. My daughter Quinn came up to me and she said, "Daddy, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." Like, what? Why do you ask? And she says, "What's wrong with your chin?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what's wrong with my chin?" And she said, "Why is there white on there?" She was talking about the gray hairs that were growing in my beard. So I probably had to go shave it. So she'd stop harassing me about my age.
That's hilarious. Yeah, mine likes to ask if you're okay, or if you ask him if he's okay. Now he doesn't have quite the advanced thoughts that Quinn does yet, a little younger. I'm fine. Are you okay? And he goes, "I'm fine." A lot of emphasis on that. He wants you to know. But we could talk about our kids all day, and maybe some of you would prefer us to do that. But we will talk a little bit of football here as the Flames gear up for a scrimmage on Saturday, closed to the public. Should point this out as well, though. We do have an event coming up here for fans. Meet the Team inside Liberty Football. That'll be Saturday, August 22nd. At Williams Stadium, the indoor practice facility. Gates open at 1 o'clock, and some cool stuff going on there. Not the traditional fan appreciation day or whatever we've called it in the past, where you have the live scrimmage and everyone sits in the stadium and watches. A little bit different this year, but you come in and you'll be able to tour the stadium, tour some areas of the stadium that not all fans always have access to or ever have access to. You can tour Carter Tower, where the club room is, tour the indoor, the football operations center and the locker room. I don't even think I've been in the locker room, to be honest, not in the meat of it anyway. I've looked in from the side, after games and things. But, you can walk through the locker room, see where the Flames spend their last few hours before kickoff. There will be a Q&A session, I understand, with Coach Chadwell and also with Ian McCall, athletics director. Food trucks, games, a talent show with some of the players. That could get interesting. It's all free, with the exception of the food trucks. Obviously, if you want to buy food, you got to pay for that. But admission is free, no charge to be, to bring the kids, play the games. A lot of cool stuff going on. So again, that's next Saturday, August 22nd, 1 o'clock gates open at Williams Stadium in Lynchburg. Hope to see everybody out there, and just a cool chance to kind of get to know some of the players and get to know this team a little bit as well. Speaking of which, Pat, that this week has been a lot of talking to players and coaches for me, which is probably the best part of this time of year. Camp can get a little bit monotonous, but when you can actually spend some time talking to people, some of it humanizing the players, you're not even talking about football. We have what are called our media days with them, and we spent some time getting background information, particularly with the newcomers. Man, I heard a lot of great stories, some stories of guys that are just way more mature than I am at 42, and how they've handled different things in their life. One guy that comes to mind, Jakin Davis, quarterback, the freshman quarterback, some ties to the Chadwell family going back to his childhood. He would go to camps at Charleston Southern when Coach Chadwell was there. Was coached by Malcolm Dixon there while Dixon, I think, was playing at Chuck South, and now he's going to be his quarterback's coach here. So kind of cool, full circle moment. Just a lot of things like that. So it's been a good week. Spent a lot of time with the assistant coaches, which we're going to revisit some of their comments coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But I don't know, for you at this time of the year, what did you get out of camp as a player, and what do you enjoy about it now?
What I got out of camp was exhaustion. I mean, this is when the rubber really starts meeting the road. You've got your 10 a.m. practice and in just crazy heat. And I know times have changed now, but we used to hit some two-a-days under kind of the Danny Rocco era. But you're really going through install. A lot of your base packages, kind of the stuff that's going to be really the critical parts of the offense. You're not doing any team install yet. So you're really kind of just installing that base offense, base defense. That was always big for me, to kind of just continuing to work on that timing. You mentioned kind of throwing the pads on, that you really do get a lot out of that. I mean, you can, I jokingly call it the underwear Olympics. It's when you're in your spandex and all of that, and you're doing 7-on-7. There's value to that. But you've got to get hit. You've got to deliver some hits to really start getting up to speed. So just getting acclimated to when the bullets do start to fly around a little bit. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that I got out of camp, other than the great chocolate milk from the dining hall.
Yeah. Underwear Olympics. That's actually not the best quote I've heard yet this week. Surprisingly.
Can you lay the best quote on us?
Yeah, so I was referencing media days the other day, and a freshman offensive lineman from McCormick, South Carolina, Malcolm Gaston, big boy, 6'4", 350 pounds. He's talking a little bit about his backstory, and one of the questions I like to ask guys is, what are your earliest memories of football? I don't know how much Malcolm's going to play this year or how much he won't, but for folks to get acclimated with one of the newcomers, here you go. And he referenced playing on the defensive side of the ball when he was younger. And he said, when the Madden, I think he referenced the Madden game, when it came in, Ray Lewis was on the cover. He said, I wanted to be Ray Lewis, but I love to eat. It was the most honest, transparent, hilarious quote I think I've ever heard from a football player, or one of them anyway. Want to be Ray Lewis, but I love to eat. That applies to me in a lot of areas of my life, too. I wanted to be, ex-baseball player or Ken Griffey Jr., whatever, but I love to eat. I love to eat more than I love to lift weights.
I do love that. I mean, if we're going to tie our two stories together, there are very few things that you really look forward to in camp, but knowing that, hey, at the end of this practice, we've got lunch or we've got dinner kind of teed up, you're fighting to survive. So knowing that there's something at the end of the tunnel, a little ice bath, and then going for lunch, going for dinner. It's the little things when it comes to camp.
You talked about what the team is doing right now, and first day of full pads was Tuesday. They've been out there actually they had a Wednesday off, which is probably a good idea after first day of going live. By the way, Coach Chadwell referenced this too. They did go live. There was tackling, no flag football around here. I don't know if you saw that on social media or not.
Did I ever?
people just post things. I don't know where they get it. Well, and the worst part is other people believe it. You know, they'll see these pictures of, oh, they've got flags on. What are they doing? Why are they not tackling in practice? This is why, blah, blah, blah. No, trust me, folks, they were tackling in practice. So some of the things, 11 on 11 Tuesday, they did some live stuff, short yardage situations, third and goal, third and two situations, 2-point plays, some red zone. It was good stuff on Tuesday. But, you know, like you said, there's some install going on. There's some inconsistency because of that, particularly at the quarterback situation. And, you know, we'll kind of start there. Chapel asked about that on Tuesday. He said, you know, there's some days you feel really good and other days you don't. But he referenced some of that's the install days. You know, you don't see quite the consistency that you want to see when you're throwing something new at them. And it can feel like drinking out of a fire hose, I'm sure, for those guys, especially the guys that haven't been here yet. That said, I mean, inconsistency the first week or week and a half of fall camp, I'm not really worried about that, are you?
No, you don't worry about it. Where you start to worry about it is, 2 weeks down the road, 3 weeks down the road, you're now in game week. You're doing your game week install. But no, I mean, you're going to have those hiccups, and it's going to take, a lot of times I frame things through the quarterback receiver lens because it's what I played. It's going to take time to get up to speed. It's going to take time to figure out how you like releasing on a certain route or how you're going to break a DB down. So it just takes time to get on the same page as your quarterback and really as an athlete yourself, figuring out how to kind of maneuver things. So no, not concerned right now. If we have this conversation in 3 weeks, then maybe we got a problem.
And guys are getting reps with the ones, they're getting reps with the twos, the threes. I mean, we've seen Ethan Vasco bounce around between the ones and the twos. A lot of what I've seen from Deshaun Purdy has been with the ones. Jalen Henderson, seen him with the twos, guys bouncing around. Ethan Houck, I think, was with the threes the other day. I mean, they're getting, all five are getting, somewhat equal reps right now. But the plan is still to cut it down from 5 to 2 or possibly 3 quarterbacks after the scrimmage on Saturday. Coach Chadwell not committing to say we're definitely going to 2 after Saturday. That was the original plan. But just what he's seen through the first 6-7 practices, doesn't want to lock himself into that necessarily. But I think he's right. It is important to cut it from 5 because at some point guys need to get more reps to get rid of the inconsistencies and have a chance to start to separate themselves. Speaking with Malcolm Dixon this week, new quarterbacks coach. I say new. It's the first time, his first year he's been in the role full-time with Willie Corn's departure. But he's been here as was an assistant quarterbacks coach. I forget what the actual title was. He's been working with the quarterbacks over the last several years, been on the sideline with them. One thing I did get out of this conversation, though, Pat, and I thought this was actually, I liked hearing this. I asked him if he foresaw maybe having some specialized packages, rotating quarterbacks, kind of like what they did last year. And he said, we shouldn't have to. He said, everybody has the ability to play the position. And as a quarterback, you want to be in a rhythm. And he said, speaking from experience, he played the position. When you have to play two, sometimes you get out of that rhythm. I thought that was really good to hear.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's the adage, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. I just like the thought of you're able to lock in on a guy, and very, very few instances do you have those packages where, it was like when Tim Tebow was at Florida with, I think, Chris Leak. You do see it a little bit more in college, but like in the NFL, you've got a Drew Brees and a Taysom Hill. Like you're going to rely on the guy that can run your base offense, significantly more than kind of going with the trick packages or things like that. Is there value in having the ability to do it? Sure. But I agree with you. You'd rather have a guy locked in that does just about everything.
And you talk about quarterbacks needing to separate themselves this Saturday. Really, it's everybody. And Coach Chadwell talked about that this week. He said this is a separation scrimmage. I mean, while he hopes to have some starters named, the depth chart isn't necessarily going to be done after this Saturday, nor should it be. But he said what they want to get out of this is figure out who they can rely on, who they can count on, who they can't count on to be consistent and not put the team in a bad situation. I would assume they're going to have officials out there. They're going to be calling penalties, throwing flags, things like that. which is big. This team struggled with penalties last year, especially in key moments, right? They're rotating a lot of guys, ones and twos. He said, but the twos are making some mistakes right now. Doesn't necessarily want to bury those guys after 9 practices, but you're going to start to get an idea after this Saturday. Now, how much of an idea, that'll be interesting next week when we talk to Coach again. Injury front, I know we talked about this a little bit last week. I'll briefly touch on it. Erwin Anthony Jr. on the offensive line, lower leg injury, first day of fall camp. He's going to miss some significant time. Aaron Hester, edge rusher for the Flames, got hurt during the summer. He's not going to play this year, it looks like. Florida State transfer in his second year with the Flames. That's disappointing. But, talking to Skylar McGee and Bill Durkin this week, they feel good about where those groups are on the D-line and the O-line, respectively. I asked Coach Durkin about imposing the will of the offensive line on the other team. And, if that's something that it felt like they struggled with last year. And he said, you know what? He said a lot of things went off the rails last year, and they've got to improve. But he feels good about where they are right now. He's been moving guys around on the O-line all summer. DJ Geth is playing a lot of different positions right now. Aaron Fenimore has trimmed up, actually cut a little bit of weight and looks a little more physical and mobile, if you will. They like Upe Ingers a lot up there up front. Christian Williams is a year older. They feel really good about this group. And Pat, for this group to be able to run the football the way that they need to be successful, this group's got to stay healthy and play well.
No, they definitely do. One thing I wanted to circle back on what you said there is being able to impose your will. I think there was some frustration last year, certainly from myself, and I'm sure other Flame fans as well. But the struggles in short yardage really got ugly or really stood out to me. And I don't always want to reference back to that Fiesta Bowl season, but it felt like every 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, this team was converting.
They got it every time.
And last year was a mix of either you're fumbling the exchange, you're taking a penalty, or you're just not getting pushed and you're not picking up the 2 or 3 yards. So for a team that averaged almost 300 yards that season, and then honestly last year averaged almost 200 rushing yards per game, you've got to be able to get the 1, 2, 3 yards at a time. So totally agree with you. This group does have to stay healthy. I want to see them punch people in the face and be able to move piles, because that's what makes your whole offense that much more explosive. Once you're making the other team commit 5, 6, 7 guys in the box, it gives you a chance for those big hitting plays. But it does all start up front.
On the other side, the defensive line, a guy that I think is going to be fun to watch this year, talking to Skylar McGee about him yesterday, was Lorenzo Payne, a kid that they got out of West Florida, 7.5 sacks last year. One of the strongest guys on the team. McGee said that this kid's squatting over 600 pounds, power clean well over 300. One of the things, though, that I asked him was, when you're evaluating guys like this that didn't play at the FBS level, how do you know it's going to translate? And I thought the answer was a little interesting. Obviously you're looking at movement, different movements, skills, ability to, you're just comparing them to the guys you have now, I guess. But he mentioned the region and being from Apopka, Florida, and just how important football is down there and the kind of athletes that they tend to turn out. How much of it is, when you're recruiting, just the area that you're in and playing the percentages of, this region's turned out kind of like the old 757 in Virginia, right? This region's known for turning guys out. You're going to be right more than you're wrong.
I think there is a lot to it. And you think about it, there's, again, to use like the corny cliches, whatever you want to say, they say you kind of become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around, not to get philosophical on this podcast, but there certainly is something to it. If you're surrounded by great athletes, if you're training with great athletes, if you're a part of a great program, it's going to just make you raise your level of performance if you want to see the field and if you want to be a good player. So being from Apopka, like, when you're surrounded by top athletes, chances are you're going to have a chance to be a pretty decent athlete as well. If for no other reason than, hey, I'm surrounded by guys that are like really pushing me, I'm going to try and push them as well. So I think there's a lot to it, whether it's, you see these dominant teams in Texas, in Florida, in Alabama, in Louisiana. There's a reason. There's a high standard and there's a lot of athletes there.
So Lorenzo Payne, a guy to watch. Michael Floyd, certainly junior college transfer, another guy who didn't play at the FBS level but showed a lot of ability. And look, one thing that Coach Chadwell and really everybody, Skylar McGee on down has referenced is, we've talked about wanting to pressure the quarterback. We talked a lot about that last week and the inability to do it. Well, if you're not winning on first and second down, you're not stopping the run. It's sure hard to blitz somebody on 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. So you've got to, so to speak, earn the right to rush the passer. And I think that's where you're going to see those sack numbers go up, is if they can stop the run. Not to say they don't have some game wreckers over there. I don't know that you've necessarily got a Darrell Johnson over there or insert whatever elite pass rusher. Maybe you do. I don't know. I'm not going to say for sure without having watched these guys play a down yet. But if you put them in situations, in good situations, I think you will see those numbers start to go up.
Yeah, I think so too. We talked a little bit. I don't remember if it was you and me or talking on Twitter with someone, but that 2023 football season success, you put yourself in good situations, which kind of opens your playbook up a ton. Whereas at times last year, if you become one-dimensional, it allows the defense to play you a little bit differently. So same thing for Liberty's defense in this situation. If you're able to limit them on the ground, or if you're able to put them in second and long, 3rd and long, you do make teams one-dimensional, which then lets your athletes kind of pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. So it definitely is situational.
So those were a lot of the big takeaways from this week, I thought, in coverage of fall camp, talking with coaches, talking with players. We'll have more on that. Next week, we'll be able to speak maybe a little bit more in depth after the first scrimmage and after we hear from Coach Chadwell on Tuesday. But for now, before we shut it down here this week on the show, I wanted to get into the mailbag a little bit here. And, of course, you can find us on social media. We are happy to always take your questions, your comments, Twitter or X. I still call it Twitter. It's X officially. The best place to reach us, at NPierce84 or at Patrick_Kelly the second, or capital I for the second.
Nick, you have always had an issue with this. My dad was Patrick Sr. I'm the second.
I understand the why. I'm just saying it's confusing my son on Twitter. So you can find us both on that platform and shoot us your questions, which a couple of you did this week, so we'll get to those. Got some fun stuff coming up here in a second, but I do want to get to one question first. Not that it's not fun, but I'll explain in a minute. John 647, faithful follower of all things Liberty Athletics. Appreciate him. Do you foresee Liberty returning any graduates like Brylan Green or Bryce Dixon with the new ruling on eligibility? And John, thank you. For me, none of the legal stuff is really that fun to talk about, but it is necessary. You have to kind of pay attention to it. And the ruling on eligibility that John's referring to is the Wisney or Wisney, I don't know how you say it, injunction from Colorado that was made in late July, saying the NCAA made the ruling that they want to go to the 5 years of eligibility in 5 years of college. So take away the red shirts. They made that ruling. They put that rule into effect, but it did not apply to seniors from this past athletic year. So if you were a 25, 26 graduating senior, exhausted eligibility, you were not going to get the extra year, your fifth year, if you had only played 4 years. That only applied to the existing student athletes who were coming back this year anyway, or the new student athletes in the class of 26. So that was the ruling that was made. Well, you could, Stevie Wonder could have seen this coming, that everyone was going to start challenging this in court, which they did, and for now they've won. But it's I think a temporary injunction that was granted by the judge in Colorado. The NCAA has now gone back, and they are fighting this, trying to get another hearing to reverse the injunction that, in the NCAA's words, should have never been granted to begin with. So what that means is that, at least for now, that opens the door to student athletes in all sports that graduated last year or had exhausted eligibility last year that didn't already use a fifth year. They could come back and have another year, potentially. We're very late in the game, John. So to answer your question, we're very late in the game for this, particularly with football. And the two guys that he referenced, Brylan Green, Bryce Dixon, I think there might be a couple of others with the team as well. I haven't done a ton of digging on this because I'm not sure how much it's going to apply. I'm not going to say it can happen or it won't happen. But you've got to wonder, and Pat, you could speak to this too as a former player. It's August 13th as of the time of this taping. You've been sitting on the couch, so to speak, or at least not in football shape, right? And you're thinking about, rolling off the couch, rolling out of your job, whatever. Maybe these guys have careers now. I don't know. They might be starting the next chapter. To just roll out, come in here, try to get yourself in game shape in 3 to 4 weeks or a month, and be a contributing member of this football team, I don't know how realistic that really is.
Hey, look, Kurt Warner was bagging groceries when he got his big intro back into arena football. No, I totally
And
agree
Cam
with
Newton
you.
was sitting on the couch on Wednesday and scoring touchdowns for the Panthers on Sunday in his second coming. So I hear you, man.
No, I think you're right. Football is a very specific type of training, and if you haven't been doing it over the course of several weeks, several months, it is very, very hard to get back into that type of shape. Now, one thing I would say is maybe let's not think of it through the, hey, Liberty plays JMU in 3 weeks, roughly 3 weeks time frame. But if we're thinking a little bit longer picture, maybe for that grind of a season, you've got some attrition. Could someone feasibly get themselves in shape in 2.5, 3 months? Perhaps, yes. But no, I do not think that there is anyone who is going to suit up for the JMU game that would be able to make any type of meaningful impact. It's a nice thought to have. I just don't think that it's physically possible or physically smart for that matter.
And here's the other piece to this, too. The 10th Circuit Court has ordered an expedited briefing at the request of the NCAA for a stay pending appeal. So basically, they're trying to get this back in court to get the injunction reversed permanently. So you might bring them back and get them into workouts, and then in 3 weeks you find out, because I don't see where the next court date is going to be, but say you get them back and then in 3 weeks they reverse this thing. Oh, well, you can't play now. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me
It
to
feels like
really
there's too many
pursue it.
hurdles, too many obstacles to try and clear for it.
There's too many unknowns. There's too many variables. So where I could see it potentially being a factor is maybe spring sports, possibly even basketball. And basketball is the biggest one right now that seems to be taking center stage. There's a lot more reporting on that than there is football because of a lot of the reasons I think we just mentioned. But I still don't know how that's going to affect incoming freshmen, newcomers. And that's been the NCAA stance on this to begin with, is you're hurting younger players, high school players that are coming out. You're taking their spots. They've been training all summer. They've been expecting to be part of a program. And then all of a sudden, well, no. And look, these coaches, if they have the ability, talking basketball now, to go and get a guy that was part of their program last year and has been a big piece of it, and it helps them win, they're going to do what helps them win. So, it's a very messy situation. The NCAA Division I cabinet, which includes student-athlete members, voted on this thing with the age-based eligibility rule, decided not to do the retroactive thing and not to include guys that would have or girls that would have a fifth year this year. So I don't know. It's a mess, as is a lot of this litigation right now. It's, to be candid with you, it's something I really despise talking about. I'd much rather be at practice or at a game or talking about, the matchup for the next week. And we will. Once we get there, once the season gets here, the games are great. The quality of play is great. We love it every Saturday or Sunday or Thursday or whenever they're rolling the ball out there, but it's just all the extra stuff that I don't know when we're going to get through it, but I digress. Something a little more fun, and that's what I meant. Something a little more fun here in the mailbag this week. Pat, you actually threw a question out there on social media the other day, asked me if I were calling the first 4 offensive plays of the season, what would I call? First of all, and Michael Peter jumped into this as well, and we'll get to some of his comments here in just a minute. He had his plays ready to go. Unless I'm playing Madden, and I'm just going to admit my ignorance here, I don't know the names of these plays. Okay, I have concepts of plays. I heard somebody say that somewhere. I have concepts of an offense, but I run to the right, run to the left, or I want to throw it to this guy or whatever. I'm not smart enough to call plays, okay? But I might have ideas of things I'd want to do. You know what? JMU on the road first game, I might take a shot on the first play. Well, let's take the lid off. Let's just see, especially if the Flames are able to run the ball as well as they feel like they're going to be able to this year. You can get it back on second down, put yourself in a third and manageable. Why not? Take a shot. Take the crowd out of it. Land the first punch, Pat Kelly.
Hey, I like it. I mean, we're forecasting here, but we've got a transfer wide receiver from national champion Indiana. You've got Jamari Purse. I mean, you've got some weapons that can go out there and make a play. I like it. Take the top off the defense. And again, I'm a receiver, so of course I'm going to say throw the ball.
I knew you would approve.
Yeah, I love it. I'm also, if it's me that is being asked the question, we're self-scouting, right? We played JMU last year. What did we do well? Where do we feel like they're weak? Where do they not plug their roster very well? And then what dogs do I have on offense? Like, are we coming out and we're going to pound it right up the middle? We're going to go between the tackles to try and, like you mentioned earlier, Coach Durkin, assert our dominance. I'm going to do a little bit of self-scout, try and figure out, hey, how were we last year? What can we replicate this year? So I don't know. I need to think on my own question a little bit more.
And look, if you call good enough play on the first play on first down, you don't need to call 4 plays. You're going to be in the end zone. That's what I'm talking about. Mekhi Jackson, Jamari Person, one of those guys, you referenced them, and, spent some time talking to Tony Washington this week about the receiving core. He really likes that first group of 3 or 4 guys. Bryce Randolph's a guy that's really impressed so far here in fall camp. I think Flames have some weapons. Losing Dante Lee, that's no easy guy to replace, but you mentioned Jackson. I mean, he's got some tools that are going to be a lot of fun to watch. Getting back to Michael Peter on X, said, I know what my first play would be. The next 3 would be based off the results of play 1. I'll give him that. He wants to stack our backs wishbone style. We're a running team, so it's expected. What is not expected is the quick slant after the fake handoff. What say you, Pat Kelly?
I mean, it almost sounds like he's trying to run like the 1940s version of RPO. We're showing a little bit of a handoff here, and we're kind of zipping that slant behind the linebacker who bit up on the run fake. Michael, I like it. I can appreciate the thought process, the strategy there. I'd love to hear the remainder of the plays. But yeah, I like it. Let's do it.
He was asking he wants to know who the best skill guys are, and we just mentioned some of them. Talking to Tony Washington the other day, kind of bring it back to that. Mekhi Jackson, a guy that is able to take the top off the defense, gives more explosion. Got good hands, good route runner. He's not as fast as Dante Lee, but 3-level receiver. That's the word I was looking for. That's how Coach Washington referred to him the other day. Another guy to keep your eyes on that's maybe not in that first group of 3 is John Montero, a guy that's been around the program a couple years now. It's kind of similar to Dante Lee in his speed and his explosiveness. Has some talent, but like Dante Lee, Dante didn't come on the scene and explode the first year. It took him a couple of years to kind of find his way. So maybe Montero kind of falls into that group this year. Him and Bryce Randolph, I think, a couple of guys to watch. Randolph, a guy that could be really good around the red zone, can win some one-on-one matchups. And then you mentioned Person, Pat, and I thought this was an interesting kind of evaluation on him. He's a guy that is not really, I guess, a burner, but he has some explosion out of the break, I guess, if you will, and can create some initial separation. And if he can really rely on that, that's something that they're really honing in on him, working with him on. If he can create that separation, then maintain it long enough, he's a guy that can be impactful as well.
Can be a quarterback's best friend, giving him a place to put the football. It doesn't matter how fast you are. If you're not able to set up the defender to give yourself space to make the catch, or to give the quarterback a spot to drop that ball in there, it doesn't matter. So I love guys that can use their body to create separation. You hear about guys almost like boxing players out, almost like in a basketball sense, being able to use your body to generate separation. It's something that I had to do a little bit because I wasn't the fastest player on the field. You got to learn how to be productive. So I like it.
Yeah, it could move the chains, right? I mean, that's what your specialty was. You get in, you can move the chains on third down. A guy that 28 catches, 11 yards per reception last year. Person, actually the top returning receiver on this team. So there you have it. That's kind of a look at the receiving core. But Michael, we appreciate the commentary. By the way, did you, along these lines, and we'll end on this, did you hear about, I think it's at Akron, where they're going to let a fan, a season ticket holder, call the first drive of the first home game?
I did hear that, and I'd love to know, just from a football strategy and game plan perspective, how the heck that's going to work. Because as a player, you typically have your first 10, 15 plays scripted. And then in your walkthrough the night before, the day of the game, you're going through these plays. So is this fan going to be either at the team hotel? Is he going to be at the walkthrough? Like, how specifically is this going to go? Because the team needs
I think they will. I think they will. I think that's the thing. Joe Moorhead, the head coach, once was the head coach at Mississippi State as well, offensive coordinator, been in this thing a long time. I think they're going to get to sit down with him and script the opening drive for the home opener against Robert Morris on September 12th.
I love it. I mean, and that's going to also give a fan a chance to kind of peek behind the curtain and see what goes on in an offensive staffing, basically your game planning session. So now that I have that level of detail, I think that's awesome.
Here's the one thing. What if this winner, this season ticket holder, what if there's a little espionage going on here? What if this is a plant? What if this guy is actually a Robert Morris fan? What if they come in here and they call something that does not put Akron in the best situation for success?
Nick, I hear you on that, and I'll raise you this. I have to think.
I call conspiracy.
that little headset that the team has, where coach is going to lower his microphone and say, yeah, we're not running that, can, and then we're going to check into whatever else could be possibly called.
The quarterback only has the helmet's only live until 15 seconds. So they gonna give this person a headset? What's the deal here?
That's what I'm saying. There are so many logistics that I'm curious about. Like, is this person going to pick the plays before the game, and then the OC is still going to call it down? Are they going to have said fan on the field? I can't see that being the case.
Let's raise the stakes. Let's let them call the plays on third down in the conference opener. Let's raise the stakes here a little bit. This isn't good enough for me.
The 2-point conversion play in overtime.
Right. But that would be the ultimate, right? That would be the ultimate Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach right there, wouldn't it? For those of you that watch wrestling in the old NWO formation. Oh, he's here to help us call plays. No, he's not. He's from the enemy. Ultimate heel turn. That's right. He rips off the Akron shirt in the booth. He's got the Robert Morris NWO shirt on underneath. I watched too much wrestling as a kid. I like the promotion, though. We should ask Coach Chadwell what he thinks. I'm going to ask him next week what he thinks about that. I'll have to make a note to do that.
I like it.
Oh, gosh. That'll bring us to another end of the podcast here. Double coverage. Part of the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling. Servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service at callrogers.com. We're back with you again next week. We'll talk some more Flames football. We'll update you on fall camp, the first scrimmage, have initial thoughts after that, and much more coming up here on the pod. So for Pat Kelly, I'm Nick Pierce. Thanks again for stopping by.
You've been listening to Double Coverage with Nick Pierce and Pat Kelly. Hit the subscribe button and listen each week to this and all podcasts on the Liberty Flames podcast channel from Van Wagner on the Liberty Flames Sports Network.